everyone, Black Cat Loner here, and welcome to episode 3 of One Lone Cat Podcast. And before we begin, I just want to apologize in advance for the lateness of this week's episode. I ran into some technical issues that were completely out of my control, mainly the fact that my phone got wet and I was without a phone for a few days. But I have upgraded and now I'm getting this episode out. This week on the old agenda, I will be doing yet another trailer reaction, this time to the highly anticipated Deadpool and Wolverine trailer, and I will read another short story. But this time it will be my private detective story and more. Man, what a week. A week full of tech issues, updates, and so on. Like I said, my phone got wet and I was without a phone for about 3 days, but I have since upgraded to a new phone. Of course, that wasn't the only thing that was going on tech-wise. Believe it or not, I've been doing a little spring cleaning lately, most notably on the old laptop. And that includes getting my laptop some much-needed updates. Tech issues aside, the other thing I wanted to share is that on April 17th, which was also the day I uploaded the last episode, I celebrated my 4th anniversary on X, formerly known as Twitter. Technically, it would have been 16 years in June had I kept my original account, which I ran from 2008 until 2019. To be honest, Twitter is actually more fun since Elon Musk took it over last year. When I'm not fawning over VTubers or promoting my content, I usually shitpost about movies and other things. In fact, the day before I uploaded the last episode, someone posted a meme with a pic of Ross Webster's ugly sister after she was turned into a robot in Superman 3. It was one of those name that movie posts. And since I reviewed Superman 3 as an episode of Movies to Go, I quote tweeted the post where I said that the robot scene inspired the climax of the debut episode of Tales of the Black Cat, where the villain, Karen McBishface, the fictional CEO, turned into a robot to try to cancel me on YouTube. Yeah, good times. Which now brings me to my trailer reaction for Deadpool and Wolverine. Like last episode's trailer reaction to Joker 2, which comes out in October, I'm starting off this episode with a trailer reaction for what is most likely this year's most anticipated film, Deadpool 3. Or as it's more commonly known as Deadpool and Wolverine. This movie not only marks the Merc with a Mouth's first entry into the MCU, but it also marks Hugh Jackman reprising his legendary role as Wolverine for the first time since 2017's Logan. Not to mention that it's also the first time the pair have appeared in a movie together since a certain 2009 piece of crap movie that clearly needs no introduction.
Oh man! Oh God! Oh man! Oh God! Oh man! Oh God! Oh man! Oh God! Oh man! Oh God!
Yeah, we don't talk about that one. And also, like Joker 2 last time, this is my first time watching this trailer, so without further ado, here we go.
I told you, you're not welcome here. You're not welcome anywhere. Now get the fuck out of my bar. Just give me one more drink and then I'll leave. Hi, Peanut. Come with me right now. Look, lady, I'm not interested. All right, well, I'm sort of on the tick-tick, so upsy daisy. Oh, whiskey dick of the claws. It's quite common in Wolverines over 40. You don't want this. If you want to take a deep breath through your fucking forehead, I suggest you reconsider.
Wait, is this Madonna they're playing?
Everything that I've ever cared about. Not my fucking problem. Come again. This Wolverine let down his entire world. Want to talk about what's haunting you, or should we wait for a third act flashback? Go fuck yourself. I don't know anything about saving worlds, but you do.
This actually looks good. But then again, it's Deadpool, so yeah, it's good. Hopefully Disney doesn't F it up. Yeah, let's effing go.
Want to do some cocaine? Hey, cocaine is the one thing that Feige said is off limits.
What about Bolivian marching powder?
They know all the slang terms. They have a list.
Even snowboarding?
Even disco dust.
White girl interrupted?
Even force bump.
Do you want to be
Well, the MCU hasn't had a good movie since Spider-Man No Way Home, and they've been on the decline since Endgame. Hopefully this will be good. So the biggest question here is, since I mentioned in episode 1 that Deadpool 2 was the last time I set foot in a movie theater, which was 6 years ago, will Deadpool 3 be the one that brings me back to the movies? I guess we'll find out in July when Deadpool and Wolverine hits theaters. As I mentioned in episode 1, I began writing a short story about a private detective that I named Max Malone, and I was originally planning to do a novel around the character, but I decided instead to do some short stories around the character instead. While I was recovering from my recent hospital visit, I finished the first Max Malone story and posted it originally to my blog site before I ultimately decided to give Max Malone his own blog site at maxmalonefiles.blogspot.com. I'm in the process of writing another short story. It was originally supposed to be the novel I was writing, and it should be up soon. So I figured for content, I would do a reading of the first Max Malone story for you. I call it Room 263. So without further ado, here we go. The Cat's Paw Hotel. A dilapidated Art Deco building towering over the dismal streets of Noirville had once been the epitome of glamour and opulence. But now as I approached the front entrance, its faded grandeur only served to accentuate the city's descent into decay. As a private investigator with over a decade of experience, I had seen my fair share of seedy hotels and desperate souls, but there was something about the Cat's Paw that made my gut twist with unease. It was as if the very air inside the hotel was tainted, poisoned by the secrets it harbored. As I stepped inside, I found myself transported back in time. The lobby was dimly lit, the chandeliers casting a warm amber glow over the checkered marble floor. The reception desk, a curved slice of polished black granite, was manned by a bored-looking clerk who barely glanced up as I approached. "Evening, Mr. Malone," the clerk drawled. "How can I help you today?" I ignored the clerk's indifference and slid a crisp $50 bill across the counter. "I'm here to see someone in room 263. Name's Marlowe. Make sure she's expecting me." The clerk's eyes widened momentarily, but he quickly regained his composure and slid a key across the counter. "Very well, Mr. Malone. Enjoy your stay." As I made my way through the hotel, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The halls were lined with dusty, fading portraits of long-forgotten guests, their eyes seeming to follow me as I walked. The carpet was threadbare and the walls were paper-thin, as if I could hear every whisper and creak from the other rooms. But I pushed those thoughts aside, focusing on the task at hand. When I finally reached room 263, I paused outside the door for a moment, taking a deep breath to steady my nerves. The number was etched into the wood in cursive script, the ink long since faded, giving the room a ghostly aura. I slid the key into the lock, twisted it, and pushed the door open. The room was dimly lit, the only source of light a single flickering candle on the nightstand. A canopy bed dominated the center of the room, its crimson sheets and pillows rumpled as if they'd been slept in. The walls were adorned with more portraits, this time of a different sort. Instead of the well-to-do socialites of the lobby, these paintings depicted shadowy figures shrouded in cloaks, their faces obscured by hoods. Against one wall stood a large ornate armory, its polished wood gleaming in the candlelight. I approached it warily, noting that the door was slightly ajar. Carefully, I pushed it open, revealing a hidden alcove behind it. Inside were rows upon rows of bottles, each containing a murky green liquid. The label on each bottle bore the same symbol, a twisted, stylized version of the number 263. As I studied the labels on the bottles of green liquid, my mind raced with questions. What was the significance of the number 263? How had Marlowe gotten involved? And more importantly, who was responsible for her death? The police would never find the answers, not without my help. I knew that if I wanted justice for Marlowe, I would have to take matters into my own hands. Deciding to leave the hotel room exactly as I found it, I exited room 263 and made my way back through the dimly lit halls. The air felt cleaner outside the room, as if the taint of corruption was confined to that space. I approached the reception desk where the bored clerk was still idly flipping through a magazine. "Excuse me," I said, trying to sound casual. "I was wondering if you could point me in the direction of a good spot for dinner. Something a bit upscale, you know?" The clerk looked up from his magazine with a bored expression. "Oh, you mean one of those places where the owners might actually recognize your name?" he drawled. "Well, I'd recommend the Blue Room, just down the street. They have a nice selection of seafood, and the owner's been known to be quite friendly with our guests." I nodded, pretending to consider the clerk's advice. "Thank you," I replied, reaching into his pocket to slip him another $50 bill. "That sounds perfect." As the clerk accepted the money with a smile, I turned away, already formulating my plan. I would dine at the Blue Room, charming the owners and anyone else who might have information about the 263 Syndicate. I would use my charm and my wits to dig deeper into the organization, uncovering the truth about Marlowe's death and bringing those responsible to justice. It would be dangerous work, but I was determined to see it through. I was the only one who could give Marlowe the justice she deserved. Over the course of the evening, I worked my way through the dining room of the Blue Room, introducing myself to the other patrons and exchanging pleasantries with the staff. I had a knack for making people feel important, and it wasn't long before I was seated at the owner's private table, enjoying a lavish meal and swapping stories with the elderly man and his wife. They were delightful company, but I knew that I couldn't let my guard down. I had to keep my true purpose a secret, at least for now. As the night wore on, my questions about the 263 Syndicate grew more subtle, more carefully worded. I asked about rumors I'd heard of a group of powerful individuals who controlled the city's underworld from the shadows. I mentioned the name Marlowe casually, as if it were just another piece of gossip. The owners of the Blue Room exchanged knowing glances, but they said nothing explicit. It was clear that they were aware of the Syndicate, but they were playing a dangerous game by acknowledging its existence. Finally, as the last course was being served, I leaned in conspiratorially. "I heard that the Syndicate is expanding," I said, lowering my voice. "That they're looking for new talent. I suppose someone like me might be of interest." The owner's expressions grew guarded, but they didn't deny it. Instead, they offered me a warning. If you get involved with them, there's no going back. I nodded solemnly, pretending to consider their words, but inside I knew I'd already made up my mind. I would find a way to bring down the 263 Syndicate and avenge Marlowe's death, no matter the cost. Over the next few days, I continued to gather information, using my charm and my connections to weave a web of deceit. I learned that the Syndicate was run by a ruthless man named Victor Rogelio, who owned several casinos and nightclubs across the city. I knew that if I wanted to take them down, I would have to strike at the heart of their operation. I began planning a daring heist, one that would not only cripple their finances, but also expose them to the police. As I worked on my plan, I couldn't help but think about Marlo. I wonder what she would have thought of my efforts to avenge her death. Would she have been proud? Or would she have warned me that I was playing a dangerous game? In the end, I decided it didn't matter. I was doing this for myself, for the sake of justice. And if I could save others in the process, all the better. The night of the heist finally arrived. I had collaborated a small team of trusted police officers, each one an expert in their field. They had spent weeks planning every detail, and now they were ready to put their plan into action. As they approached the casino where Victor was known to spend most of his time, I took a deep breath and signaled for the first part of the plan to begin. The team fanned out, infiltrating the casino from multiple entry points. They were careful to avoid the security cameras and guards. Meanwhile, I made my way to Victor's private office. I had done my homework. I knew the route by heart. The office was heavily guarded, but the officers the police sent me were more than equal to the task. Within minutes, they had subdued the guards and secured the office. I approached Victor's desk, my heart pounding in my chest. As I rifled through the drawers, searching for incriminating evidence, I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. I knew that with this evidence, I could bring down the entire syndicate. But as my fingers brushed against a familiar-looking bottle, labeled with the number 263, a chill ran down my spine. It was the same substance that had been in Marlo's room. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. Victor wasn't just the head of the syndicate, he was the one responsible for her death. I knew then and there that I couldn't stop until Victor paid for what he had done. I quickly gathered up the evidence and signaled to the officers. They retreated from the casino as swiftly and quietly as they had arrived. The heist was a success. The syndicate's empire laid in ruins. But I knew that my work was far from over. I had Victor to deal with now. Over the next few weeks, I continued to gather intelligence on Victor's whereabouts. I knew that the syndicate leader would be furious about the loss of his casino and would stop at nothing to regain control. Finally, I received a tip that Victor was planning a meeting at an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. It was the perfect opportunity to confront him. Armed with a small team of trusted allies that consisted of Noirville's finest, I made my way to the warehouse. We approached with caution, aware that Victor was known to employ ruthless bodyguards. As we drew closer, we could hear muffled voices coming from within. I signaled for the team to split up. They would surround the building and take down any guards that tried to escape. With a nod of understanding, the team fanned out. I crept silently around the side of the warehouse. With a nod of understanding, the team fanned out. I crept silently around the side of the warehouse, using the shadows to conceal my movements. As the police rounded the corner, they came face to face with a group of heavily armed men, guarding the entrance. There was no avoiding a fight now. I drew my trusty .45 and the attack was on. The ensuing battle was brutal and relentless. Bullets flew through the air, shattering glass and ricocheting off metal beams. The bodyguards put up a fierce resistance, but the police team was well trained and disciplined. They fought with a cold efficiency that belied their rage. In the end, it was over as quickly as it had begun. The last of the bodyguards laid sprawled on the ground, and the warehouse was filled with the eerie silence that followed a particularly violent storm. My heart pounding in my chest, I made my way through the warehouse, searching for Victor. I followed the muffled voices to a makeshift office at the back. The door was guarded by 2 more of Victor's men, but they were no problem for me. I stepped into the office, my gun pointed at the back of Victor's head. "Don't turn around, Victor," I hissed menacingly. "Your gig is up." Victor, sitting at a desk covered in maps and documents, looked up at me with a mixture of surprise and anger. "You dare come here, Malone?" he growled. "I thought you were smarter than this." I kept my gun trained on Victor. "You don't know the half of it, Victor," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil within. "I know what you did to Betty Marlowe. I know what you're capable of, and I won't stop until you pay for it." Victor laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the warehouse. "You're just a tool, Malone. A pawn in a game far greater than you can imagine. You think that you can bring me down?" He gestured to the maps and documents spread across the desk. "I've been planning for this day. I made contingencies for every eventuality." I remained silent, my finger tightening on the trigger. I knew that Victor was bluffing. I had seen the look in the old man's eyes when he spoke about Marlowe. There was no way Victor could go back to his old life after what he had done. "You don't know what it's like," Victor continued, his voice softening, "to have everything you worked for, everything you built, crumble around you. You think you can take it all away from me?" He chuckled bitterly. "You're as good as dead, Malone, and when I'm done with you, your friends won't be far behind." I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. I knew that Victor was trying to provoke me, to make me lose control, but I couldn't let that happen. "Victor," I said, my voice steady, "I want you to listen to me very carefully. I've got cops around who can hear every word you say. They're waiting for the word to come in and end this. And I swear to you, if you make one false move, if you even try to call for backup, they won't hesitate to put a bullet in your head." Victor's eyes widened in fear, and for a moment, I thought I had him. But then the old man recovered his composure, and the arrogance returned to his voice. "You don't understand," he said. "I made preparations. Even if you kill me, my plans will go forward. My legacy will live on." I hesitated, unsure how to respond to such a chilling statement. I glanced at the cops outside the office, hoping they were still listening. "Victor, listen to me," I said, trying to sound calm and convincing. "You can't win this. You can't go on hurting people. You have to accept your fate and face the consequences of your actions." Victor laughed again, a humorless sound that sent a shiver down my spine. "You really think you can save me, Malone? You think you can redeem yourself by killing me?" He gestured to the maps and documents on the desk. "This is bigger than you, bigger than me. It's bigger than anything you can imagine." I felt a wave of frustration wash over me. I had hoped that Victor would see reason, but the old man was as delusional as ever. I glanced at the cops outside, wondering what they were thinking, what they were feeling. They had risked their lives in the line of duty to come here. And for what? To take down one man? One of countless players in a vast interconnected game? "Look," I said, trying one last time to appeal to Victor's humanity. "I understand that you feel trapped, that you see no way out. But the pain and suffering you've caused, it doesn't have to be this way. There has to be some kind of redemption, some hope for a better future." Victor's laughter filled the room again. "You truly are a fool, Malone. You have no idea what you're up against. This is not a game where we can all just walk away and forget what happened. This is real life, with real consequences. And I will not let you take it all away from me." I felt a chill run down my spine as I stared into the old man's eyes. There was no reason to believe anything Victor was saying. He had gone too far, and there was no turning back now. "In that case," I replied as I socked Victor in the jaw, "this ends now." Victor got up and pulled out his cane, which had a built-in knife blade. He swung the cane at me but missed. He swung again and again, but he couldn't land a hit on me. I finally managed to grab the cane and break it against the wall. "You shouldn't have done that, Victor," I said, my voice calm but firm. "You know the rules. You should have just come quietly." I delivered the knockout blow to Victor, and with that, the 263 syndicate fell with him to the floor. I pulled out my handcuffs and clapped them around Victor's wrists. Just then, the police squad broke into the office, followed by Lieutenant Martin Bates, a 15-year veteran of the Noirville Police. "I got your garbage for you, Marty," I said gruffly. "Where do you want him?" "We'll take it from here, Max," Bates replied. He picked Victor up off the floor and handed him to the officers. "Make sure he's locked up tight." I turned away from the scene, feeling a mixture of relief and guilt. They had gotten Victor, but at what cost? The damage he had done would echo through the years, perhaps even beyond their lifetimes. The police led Victor out of the office, their footsteps echoing down the hall. I stood at the open door, watching them go, my mind racing with thoughts of what might happen next. Would Victor be brought to justice? Or would he manage to weasel his way out of it as he had so many times before? As they disappeared around a corner, I turned back to the office, my eyes taking in the maps and documents scattered across the desk. There was still so much they didn't know about Victor's organization, about the extent of his influence and power. I walked over to the window, looked out at the cityscape beyond the glass. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. Below, the streets were filled with people going about their lives, unaware of the events that have just transpired. It was a stark reminder of how insignificant their actions could sometimes seem. I turned back to the desk, my thoughts drifting back to the man they had just apprehended. He wondered if Victor really was as delusional as he seemed. Perhaps there was a kernel of truth in what he had said. A larger conspiracy at work that they had only scratched the surface of. It was a chilling thought, one that made my blood run cold. I walked over to the map on the wall, studying the intricate web of connections and symbols. The more I looked, the more I began to see a pattern, a hidden network of power and influence that stretched far beyond anything I could have imagined. It was as if Victor were just a single node in a much larger network, a network that had been in place for generations, slowly gathering strength and influence. The thought both terrified and fascinated me. It meant that the battle against Victor was not just a battle against one man, but against a system, a culture. And it was a battle that no one could ever truly win. Because even if the law of the city managed to dismantle his organization, another would rise to take its place. I ran my fingers through my hair, feeling the weight of responsibility pressed down on my shoulders. I knew that the law's actions today had bought the city some time, perhaps even saved some lives. But it was only a temporary reprieve. The network was far too entrenched, and Victor was only one of many players. I turned away from the map, gazing out the window once more. The city seemed to loom over me, a massive living creature that was both beautiful and terrifying in its own complexity. I wondered if I would ever truly understand it, if I could ever hope to tame the beast. A sudden chill ran down my spine as I realized that perhaps the battle was already lost. That I was fighting a war against an adversary that was far more cunning and resilient than I could ever hope to be. It was a sobering thought, one that made me feel small and insignificant in the face of such an overwhelming force. Yet despite this bleak outlook, I could not help but feel a strange sense of determination welling up inside me. I turned back to the desk, gathering up the files and documents scattered about. As I worked, my mind raced with ideas, plans for how I can continue to fight back, to chip away at the network of corruption and influence. I might not be able to win the war, but perhaps I can make a difference, however small. I would make sure that Victor Rogelio and others like him never again went unchecked. And with that, I gotta end this episode. Once again, I apologize that it was so late this week, but hopefully I'll be back on regular schedule next Wednesday. And another heads up, I may soon have to alter my schedule a bit, so follow me on X at BlackHatLoner, and I also use the community posts on YouTube for details. Hopefully nothing else will go wrong next week. In the meantime, since I just plugged my X account, don't forget to sub to me on YouTube at youtube.com/@BlackHatLoner1. Also follow me on Instagram at instagram.com/BlackHatLoner1, where lately I've been posting some of my short videos there. Also follow the podcast on Spotify, YouTube Music, Audible, iHeart Music, and Amazon Music, and rate it 5 stars, and follow and all that good stuff. So, thanks for watching, everyone. I'm Black Hat Loner, and I will see you next time. Same Black Hat time, same Black Hat channel. In fact, I'll leave the last word to Ryan Reynolds.
Oh man. Oh God. Oh man. Oh God. Oh man. Oh God. Oh man. Oh God.